You've lost interest in achieving your objectives. That was a long time ago, when you were enthralled by your hopes and ambitions. Everything now appears to be a dream. Your job does not provide you with any intrinsic joy. Yes, you still have objectives, but they appear to be unattainable at this time. It's as if the light within you is fading with each passing day. But why did this happen in the first place? And, more importantly, how do you rekindle that inner fire? Loop of habit. Pornography viewing is a poor habit for some, and for others, it is an addiction. Whether or not we believe that pornography lowers our internal motivation, we must admit that it is a tremendous source of pleasure. We're all looking for pleasure. We don't like being uncomfortable or sad. We're all trying to get away from it. So, whether we're bored, angry, depressed, or despairing, our minds look for something to make us feel better. The mind tells us that pornography is available to make us feel better. Although the benefits are just momentary, it is a convenient way to forget about our problems. We establish a cycle to deal with our unpleasant emotions once we've done it. When we're in a terrible mood, we resort to pornography for momentary relief. The more we repeat this pattern, it becomes a habit, and eventually an addiction, where you want to give up pornography for good but can't. To put it another way, you get reliant on it. No one can be happy if they are imprisoned, and you are now imprisoned in your own trap. Have you ever had the pleasure of doing anything in your life that you could do for a long time? This happened to us when we were kids. We used to adore things like sketching, singing, dancing, learning, and participating in sports. That enjoyment stems from within. This isn't the delight of waiting for something to happen. This joy is based on the action process. Only when performing an action can you feel intrinsic drive. The thrill we get when anticipating something, or the pleasure we have when anticipating a future event, is not a fundamental drive. Our personal motivation, on the other hand, began to weaken as time passed. We start to lose interest in activities that we enjoy, and we are regularly obliged to perform tasks that we loathe. What happened to our natural drive? Let's look at an example to see how this works. A child's spirit is untamed. He acts on the basis of his instincts. His radiance and liveliness are enormous in comparison to ours. The bright light fades after the child is imprisoned and not permitted to do as they like. As previously stated, we are all enslaved by our negative behaviors. We don't want to watch pornography. We don't want to squander our time. We want to advance in our lives, but we plan and do something else instead. It's the same every day. You will lose self-respect if you continue to act in this manner. A person who lacks self-respect would never be able to maintain discipline in his life. A person who lacks discipline will never be able to live his life according to his desires. All of the dots are tied to our free will. As you can see, our self-respect returns. Our intrinsic motivation returns. We quit our pornography addiction, and life begins to turn upwards once we start living according to our free will. Let's look at the scientific explanation for our dwindling intrinsic motivation. Dopamine deficiency. Dopamine is responsible for the thrill you get while ordering your favorite pizza, as well as the exhilaration you have when thinking about your future self or finishing your dream project. Our bodies produce dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter. It is used by the nervous system to communicate between nerve cells. Dopamine is involved in thinking, planning, and discovering new things. It's also known as the motivation hormone or pleasure hormone. To put it another way, dopamine is released when our brain anticipates a reward. When the reward is large, the brain releases a lot of dopamine, which makes us feel excited and elated. But what type of large rewards are you talking about? The stakes are always high when it comes to our survival. Sex is a vital component of human survival. It is important for keeping our genes alive, and as a result, the joy and excitement associated with this reward are extremely high. Pornography, on the other hand, takes advantage of this inherent incentive. Pornography enhances these pleasures by adding fantasy, novelty, and other elements that increase dopamine release in our brain. With a single click of a button, you can obtain anything. In this realm, your wildest fantasies come true. As a result, your subconscious mind believes that the world of pornography is 1,000 times better than reality. However, one of the characteristics of dopamine is that it does not release the same quantity of dopamine in response to the same type of information. Because of the uncertainties, a large amount of dopamine is released when the information is fresh and unknown. To put it another way, novelty plays an important role in the release of dopamine. With the same pornography video, you won't obtain the same amount of pleasure. You're looking for something new, and thanks to high-speed internet, there's always something new in our world. Also, as a result of this, you engage in more hardcore pornography because old thoughts or fantasies are no longer satisfying. Because of these strong dopamine spikes, your usual dopamine release is disrupted, and you lose interest in things. This is referred to as a dopamine deficiency. Checking for a dopamine deficiency. If something rises, it will undoubtedly fall sooner or later. There is no exception in the case of a dopamine spike. Once you've had that dopamine rush, you'll find yourself feeling sad and unmotivated for no apparent reason. When the dopamine level drops, this is what happens. Regular job does not cause your brain to create joyful chemicals. You can, however, determine whether your dopamine levels are balanced or not. Of course, your life motivation is low right now, which is why you're reading this post, but it isn't enough. Other elements in your life, such as shame and remorse, may be lowering your motivation. However, if it is truly due to a pornographic addiction, you can put yourself to the test. Try to go 21 days without seeing pornography to discover how motivated you are. If you're depressed or depressed more than usual, you're already addicted to pornography. If you're feeling particularly motivated, it could be an indication of a dopamine deficiency. During these 3 weeks, there will be a mix of emotions and motivation levels. Every day, write down how you're feeling and how badly you want to watch pornography again. I know it's difficult, but you won't lose anything in 21 days if you don't watch it. If you've been watching pornography for a long time, it can take up to 15 minutes, 18 months to totally balance your dopamine levels. That isn't to say you won't be motivated during these months. You will, on the other hand, go through a wide range of emotions. It will be good on some days and bad on others. Finding delight in the smallest of things. In our heads, we're always in a haste to get somewhere as fast as possible. We keep running for the rest of our lives, only to find ourselves back where we started years ago. Does this make sense to you? We despise boredom like it's the worst enemy on the planet. We don't even use the restroom without our phones. We continue to seek stimulus in order to feel better. In reality, the more you seek stimulation in life, the more difficult it is to discover true happiness. By the end of the day, or the end of your life, you will always feel empty. Why? Because the pleasure you seek is always in the present, and stimulation is in the future. It's quite normal to be bored, anxious, upset, or have unpleasant thoughts. You don't have to avoid them or substitute pleasure or excitement for them. If you're sad or depressed, you don't need to play video games, consume alcohol, or watch pornography. Because you cannot always chase after happy feelings in your life, you can embrace your grief and welcome your anxiousness. If you want to have a happy life, you must experience a wide spectrum of emotions. Avoiding or distracting oneself from bad feelings will not fix the problem. Instead, it will exacerbate it. However, it is occasionally acceptable to deflect or avoid unpleasant feelings. It becomes an issue when you make it a habit. When you don't run away from your feelings and instead face them, you become stronger and happier. Close your eyes and experience ennui when you're bored. When you're sad, close your eyes and let the sadness wash over you. Because true happiness can also be found in bad emotions. Happiness and joy are inextricably linked to your life's values and objectives. However, when our brain is inundated with stimuli or happy hormones increase, we forget our goals or ambitions. We seek immediate gratification because we do it every day. You'll see how beautiful the simple things are if you stop rushing and remain present in the moment. You'll be grateful for the air you're breathing. You'll enjoy the sunset. You'll grin at your current self, and you'll rediscover your life's purpose. Pain avoidance and pleasure seeking. If you pay attention to your brain, you'll see that it is constantly attempting to prevent pain while seeking pleasure. When you are oblivious of your decisions, like we are most of the time, you establish habits without thinking about it. Later in life, these habits would lead you further away from a happy life because they are continually seeking pleasure and avoiding sorrow. What motivates you to watch pornography? It helps you avoid real-life misery or allows you to escape from reality since it provides you pleasure. But we're all aware that this is a trap. The more we seek pleasure, the more we repeat a particular activity, and it eventually becomes a habit in our lives. Nobody wants to be in pain for no apparent cause. We want to avoid pain as much as possible because it is unpleasant and makes us unhappy. So, whether you're sad, worried about the future, or have just lost a lot of money on stocks, you'll always know where to find happiness. It helps you avoid real-life misery or allows you to escape from reality since it provides you pleasure. To cope, you turn to alcohol, video games, cigarettes, or pornography. Even if these activities provide instant pleasure, you will eventually have to deal with real-life issues. Of course, there are situations when relying on rapid gratification is helpful to your mental health. Things start to get ugly when you don't want to repeat a process, but nonetheless do it. Boredom and rekindling your passion. I must tell you that quitting or changing your brain's pattern will not be as simple as you imagine. Your willpower, on the other hand, is unrivaled. It has incredible power much beyond your wildest imaginations. It only takes a modest amount of self-assurance. To cope, you turn to alcohol, video games, cigarettes, or pornography. Even if these activities provide instant pleasure, you will eventually have to deal with real-life issues. Of course, there are situations when relying on rapid gratification is helpful to your mental health. Things start to get ugly when you don't want to repeat a process, but nonetheless do it. Boredom and rekindling your passion. I must tell you that quitting or changing your brain's pattern will not be as simple as you imagine. Your willpower, on the other hand, is unrivaled. It has incredible power much beyond your wildest imaginations. When you try to give up pornography or other habits for good, certain things will happen. For a period of time, you will be bored, have negative thoughts as if something is wrong, and your stress and concern will rise. You will most days feel bad about yourself and believe that NoFap was a mistake. Despite the progress you've already made, you won't see any more. In these situations, accept your feelings rather than avoiding them. Close your eyes and feel the boredom if you're bored out of your mind. Close your eyes and experience the concern and stress if you're anxious or stressed. You must keep in mind that these are psychological tricks used by your subconscious mind to entice you back to your previous behaviors. This is where you'll rekindle your enthusiasm for your work. This is when you begin to feel more alive. However, in order to get to this point, you must experience all of the human emotions. You can't live only on positive emotions because suffering is a part of life. Rather than running away from it, accept it. You must realize that you are not walking this route alone. Many others are striving hard every day to break their negative habits in the hopes of a brighter future. It's okay if you've failed a few times. Continue to seek out new information and resources until you are rid of your pornography addiction altogether. Nothing good comes free in your life. You have to pay for it. The question is, how much are you willing to pay for the good life you want?